Hey guys, here's Jacob coming at you with a quick little Blender tutorial just to cover the basics super fast on how to create objects and move the camera around and all of that good stuff. First off, you start out on this little screen. You can just middle mouse click, get away from that. It doesn't really matter, you don't need anything on that screen. And if you notice, my starting out screen is probably quite a bit different from yours. Do not panic, it's just I just have it set up a bit different, so yeah, to help out with workflow and everything like that. But to start out, if you hold down middle mouse wheel, it'll drag your scene around, it'll rotate around the middle. And if you hold down your shift button while holding down your middle mouse and moving it around, it'll change the position of everything on the screen. Now, if you look over at your number pad, if you hit 1 on your number pad, it'll change it to face the front of your object. If you hit 3, it'll do the side. If you hit 7, it'll do the top. And if you hit 5, it'll change it into what is called orthographic view. Now, in orthographic view, it makes it so that everything is perfectly flat and symmetrical. So if you look at it from the front, you can sort of see the sides of this little floor over here going inwards, but if you hit 5, it's completely gone. It's flat. So now, if we want to select things, we just hit right click. That changes what you're selecting. And if you left click on any of the arrows, it makes it so all of the arrows just move along in the direction they're pointing in. Now, like in pretty much every other software on the face of the planet, if you hold down Control and hit Z, that'll undo what you just did. And Control Shift Z redoes everything you just did. So next, I suppose we could do rotation. If you hit R on your keyboard, R for rotate, pretty easy to remember. Now, if you only want to say rotate around the Z axis, sort of like a screw, you just hit Z and it'll rotate like that. If you hit R and then hit X, you'll see that little line come up. That means it's just rotating around the X axis. Now, if you do something you didn't mean to do, you can either right click and that'll reset it, or if you left click, you can just hit Control Z and go back again. So, a few more options. If you want to move stuff around, you can also hit G. That'll move it around. If you hit G and then Z, it'll move it around the Z. Hit Y, move it around the Y. Hit X, move it around the X. It's all pretty straightforward. If we want to make it bigger, then we hit S and size it up, size it down, S for scale, S for size, whatever helps you remember it. If you hit X, then it'll just make it bigger along the X axis, Y across the Y, Z across the Z, all the same there. Now, if you notice, we have this nice little grid here that sort of outlines one unit, whatever you have it set to. By default, it's just set to default Blender units. But if we hit G to grab it, hit X to move it across the X-axis, and hold down Control, it'll snap it along those little cubes. You can sort of tell down here in the little corner, it'll show up where all the stuff is going in. 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2. That's a pretty helpful tool if you want to keep everything all nice and lined up. X is how you delete things. Hit OK. And if you want to create things, you're going to hold down Shift and hit A. I sort of remember like A to add, Shift A. Now it'll open up this whole big menu. Try not to get overwhelmed. If you look over here, under Mesh, it has all these options for some basic shapes that we could make, like a UV sphere. Makes a nice little ball. Hold across the blue and hold Control to make it snap up so it's just bouncing on the plane. And yeah, if we want to edit the mesh, change how the ball is shaped, we are going to hit Tab. And this brings up the editing menu. With this open, you can hit A, deselect, reselect all of the little points, the vertices that make up the shape that we have. In this case, it's a sphere. And we can change how it looks with that. So with right click, that's how you choose each individual point. Okay. Let's talk about left clicks. Left clicks change what is called the origin. Now, with the origin, that is basically wherever you add things, it'll come in at this origin. So if we left click, hit Shift A, and add a cube, it'll come in over at that spot. Most of the time, I like to have this centered. It's pretty easy to center. You could hold down Shift and hit C for center. Bring it right back to the middle. Sorry about that little sidebar. Thank you for bearing with me. So back into editing, just hit Tab to go into it. You can select vertices. You can drag them around just the same as any other way. Can't really rotate or scale them because it's just one vertice, but if we hold down Shift and right click, we can select more than one. Change the size, rotation, all of that fun stuff. But to make life easier, they have these little menus down here. So say if instead of little points you want to select the stuff in between them, you click on this and that lets it so you can select all the little faces that make up the shape. This one over here, that would select edges, which is just the distance between two vertices. So say you want to cut it in half, you can just do that. Alright, a few other things to learn in the editing menu is extrusions. So with a face selected, or number of faces, if you hit E for extrude, it'll pull them out of their original spot, but not completely separate them. It'll, well, extrude it, it'll draw it out. So you can do that, scale it down, make it go out again, all of that fun stuff. If you have any more questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me at jbene34042@gmail.com, and I would love to see what you guys make. Until next time.